The Buntarelli Show.
It looks like Disney got a hole in its pocket after all that big Jedi money, because now it looks like they finally bit the bullet and bought Fox. To bring you back a little bit, there was a long time ago, many years ago, I've told the story a couple times, but Marvel was going bankrupt, and what they did to recoup some of their money was they randomly sold some movie rights really quick. And what they did was they sold the hot ones really quick. They sold Xmen and they sold Spider-Man. Spider-Man to Sony and Xmen to Fox. So X-Men was the first guys out the box, and they kind of started this whole revolution of superhero movies, because what they realized and what the whole world realized was like, hey, we can make these movies and we can make, we can do the CGI and everything, make them look good and make them work. And and they did. And X-Men came out the box, and X-Men was the first one to do it big. And all of a sudden, Sony came out with Spider-Man. And whatever you say about that Sam Raimi trilogy, started strong and then kind of fizzled out at the end. But it was amazing, that first Spider-Man movie, when we first saw, him swinging through everything, oh my God, there's a Spider-Man movie. It was freaking amazing. So now Marvel takes its B-list characters, which are the Avengers, Iron Man. Now in the comics, they weren't popular. They're popular now because of the movies. Back then, they were just the B-list. I mean, they rebooted those comics. They tried everything they could to pump some life into those Avengers. Now they got a momentum from the movies, and now the Avengers comics are popular. So, and I'm sure a lot of you noticed, but maybe some of you don't know this. In the comics, Wolverine has met Spider-Man, who's met the Avengers. That's all the Marvel. You have DC, and that's your Batman, Superman, and all those guys, on that side. There's basically two big comic properties. There's other things in between. There's Image, Mirage, Malibu, all that stuff. But those are the big two, Marvel and DC. So Sony recently pulled this deal with, Marvel recently pulled this deal with Sony, where they would, they're kind of sharing Spider-Man, whereas Marvel controls making the Spider-Man movies, but Sony gets the distribution rights. I forget the exact specs of the deal, but it's a kind of a complicated deal, but it's working, and that's why now we have Spider-Man, fighting Captain America. He's going to be Infinity War, which looks fantastic. So all these great things are happening. So that's why it's Spider-Man Homecoming, because Spider-Man's home. He's in the Marvel Universe. So with that being said, there's still been that Fox thing with the X-Men. And, well, there's a couple things. I'm going to backtrack, but there's a couple things involved. I'm going to cover the Star Wars issue really quick, too, because there's another issue with Fox, and that's the Star Wars thing. Now, if you go back to watching the original trilogy, anytime you watch a Star Wars movie, you had that Fox fanfare. Dun, 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 dun. And that's because Lucas had given Fox whatever deals he made in the 70s or 80s, but Fox always had a distribution rights to Star Wars. So even now, with Disney owning Star Wars, the property, Fox has the rights to distributing the home videos, the DVDs, the Blu-rays. Anytime it's broadcast on TV, you still see the Fox fanfare. There's probably some CEO walking around at Disney I can picture it right now. He's walking down the hallway. He goes, what about the Star Wars movies? And they're like, oh, we can't do that. Fox, we have to go to them. He's like, and then he says, okay, hey, can we do anything with X-Men? He goes, Fox. And somebody was just like, Fox. Let's just buy Fox. Can we do that? They all laugh and they're like, no, for real. Bought Fox. So now here's what happens. Now, full control over Star Wars. What they're probably going to do is they'll be able to make these box sets of these movies. And what they'll be able to do is they'll do the prequels, the original trilogy, and this new trilogy that's still being currently worked on. So they'll be able to finish all, have all that, have complete control over these box sets and different stuff. Right now, Fox is controlling how the original movies are coming out. That's why there's no consistency of the packaging of the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and this new trilogy that's happening. And they come in these three little sets. So all that's going to change. That's a smaller scale, maybe a bigger scale money-wise. But what also is happening now is, of course, the X-Men, because the X-Men is a Marvel property. So X-Men is going to be in that Marvel umbrella. Kevin Feige, who is the executive producer, who's the Marvel's liaison, the comics liaison to the movies, overseeing the whole movie thing, he's already saying, I can't wait to get my hands on the X-Men. And also, her name escapes me, with whoever's the executive producer in charge of the X-Men movies are like, hey, I'm looking forward to working with Marvel. So there's some exciting things, and there's some issues we got to deal with. there's a lot of exciting things happening, and there's a lot of hurdles. Of course, now X-Men, the actual franchise, kind of, started the whole thing. And then X-Men 2 was maybe arguably, besides Logan, the best Wolverine movie. So you have that. Now, you kind of fizzle out on the third one, Last Stand, with the Phoenix thing, which just kind of fell a little flat. Then they rebooted a little weak, and all of a sudden Days of Future Past, which I think was amazing. Not amazing from like an amazing movie, but amazing from that feat where they made this mess of timelines and they just pulled it all together and made it all work. And it was beautiful. And now because they did that, you could accept these two Professor X's, the Patrick Stewart and the James McAvoy. You could accept them both as Professor X, and you accept all these other actors, and they could pull that and make you buy into it. It's a beautiful thing, like the Ewan McGregor and the Alec Guinness Obi-Wan. It's another thing. I accept them both as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they pulled a magical move when they did that Days of Future Past thing. And which was great. And then they did Apocalypse, Age of Apocalypse. It wasn't bad, but it was just like, it really just lost its momentum. It just like, what do we do next? Apocalypse, it fell a little flat. Okay, not the end of the world. Now, they're souping up to do this Dark Phoenix thing, which looks great. But, they went down that road. You're going to do it again? I mean, can you... I don't know. It seems like whenever they try to do the same storyline a second time, it's I don't know, like the Green Goblin. I don't want to go see the Green Goblin again because I love the Green Goblin, but like we did him twice. I don't know if I'm ready for another Green Goblin. I don't know, but the Phoenix thing, you could hit a different way. So that's what's going on in the X-Men world. And of course, Deadpool is like, it's got his own little momentum. Deadpool and Logan kind of set the pace of like, okay, Fox is going a different direction with these characters and they're getting a little more hardcore. So that's where Fox is. Now, as far as the Marvel universe, you're shaping up for Infinity War. You got all these great things happening. You got Black Panther happening in February, Infinity War. These are all exciting things. So how do you bring these two franchises together? And it's kind of a difficult thing. I would hate to see them just reboot the X-Men to fit them in. Another thing is because of the history behind these X-Men, if you think of all the world-shattering events that have happened with the X-Men, it's going to be like, the Avengers never saw them. Nobody knows what's going on with that. Like, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow. So, there's that issue. You have this X-Men history that you're going in with. So now, the Avengers never noticed these cataclysmic X-Men events happen. And even to reboot them, it's like, the whole thing behind mutants is they're supposed to be here the whole time. And with, Charles Xavier's age, even though if you move things around, it just doesn't work. So how do you combine these two universes and make a smooth transition? Well, the answer is right in front of you because of the momentum of these storylines that are happening. So now you have the Phoenix Saga being retold that I have seen nothing about, but from me knowing from the comics, I understand the reality-changing implications of that. And also you have the same thing happening with Marvel. You have the Infinity Gauntlet where Thanos is going to get all these gems, one of them being the reality gem. He controls space, time, and everything. So, if anybody's thinking like me, and I'm sure somebody is, and if it does happen, hey, you heard it here first. I don't know. Here's what I'm imagining, and here's how you solve a lot of issues. So there was a time back in the 90s when Image Comics right now, they're probably best known for The Walking Dead. Back in the day, they as a group of Marvel artists that decided to go off on their own. It was Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, who was big with the X-Men. Rob Liefeld, of course, the creator of Deadpool. Todd McFarlane, who had like a momentous run on Spider-Man, and he had Spawn, you had Youngblood, Savage Dragon, Eric Larson, who was another Spider-Man creator. Anyway, these guys all went off and formed Image Comics. There was a storyline, and I tried to look it up, but I couldn't find it. I think it was Malibu Comics, but they did a earth-shattering, like, universes combined kind of deal. Marvel's done it with DC too. It's like some powerful beings get together and the universes crosses. So here's where we are with Marvel and Fox. Now you have the Dark Phoenix Saga with reality-shaping events happening, and you have the Infinity Gauntlet. So what if both these movies are still in like post-production or pre-production or somewhere along the lines? You could insert things in. You could make some kind of time and space opens up in one universe, time and space opens up in the other universe, and like Thanos' hand touches Jean Grey slashed the Phoenix's hand, and whoa, the universes merge. And the universes can merge, and I have this scene in my head that I've imagined where things unravel, and all of a sudden, Hugh Jackman said he's been done with Wolverine, but maybe get a little cameo of him, and all of a sudden, like, you see the world kind of transform and reality kind of reshape. I've envisioned a scene. You have the new actor who's going to play Wolverine. All of a sudden, like, he stands up next to Captain America, and it's like, whew, that was a close one. And it was like, they've all been together the whole time. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how you could bring these universes together. I think that's the big hurdle because both franchises have this big history together. So that's the hurdle. Now, here's the exciting stuff we got to look at. Wolverine has an exciting dynamic with a lot of the Marvel characters. I mean, there's been stories that have been told. So now you have, because of Wolverine's age, if you remember from, a weak movie, but X-Men Origins Wolverine's been through like every world war. He's been in Vietnam and everything. So he has a past where he's known Captain America. He's also has a great dynamic with Spider-Man, something about that. It's like they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. But when you have things like that, it makes for like, his levity balances with Wolverine's like aggressive seriousness, and it's great. I mean, there's Wolverine versus the Hulk. There's been in the comics where the Hulk's ripped Wolverine in half and thrown him into two different places. Really cool stuff. So there's lots of exciting possibilities. A storyline in the comics, Avengers versus Xmen, and that's an exciting possibility. This is how the storyline goes, and it kind of plays into some things, but in the comics, from what I've kept up with, there's a storyline where somehow, I think it's a young girl gets the Phoenix power, or she's access to that Phoenix power, and because of Cyclops, thinks it's the best thing for mutants, but of course, like the Avengers know it's bad for like world, and anyway, it's Avengers versus X-Men, and it's freaking like an awesome storyline. So, there's things like that, because where do you go after Infinity War? That's the big one. So it's nice to have something new to look forward after that, and you can refresh some storylines. I'm really excited about all this, and I'm excited to see what they got down the road. And another thing, and I'll call this too, you might see this play out into Infinity War or even Dark Phoenix, and I'll tell you why. When the Sony Spider-Man deal went down, Captain America Civil War was being filmed. So I follow superherohype.com, and I remember it was like Tom Holland called the Civil War set. Like, it was being filmed, and they just got Spider-Man in there. Like, you get to work, buddy. And they did it. They got him in that universe. And with the money involved and the excitement involved, granted, it's a lot more complex than when you're probably like the problems I stated, how you're going to handle this X-Men thing. But if they could figure this out soon enough, I would not be surprised if you see something alluding to this in Infinity War or the Phoenix movie. A lot of exciting stuff happening, so looking forward to it. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Short one today. Just thanks for tuning in. If this is the first time you've come across my show, we are on iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere you look for podcasts. You could find everything at bunzarelli.com. And thanks a lot. We'll catch you guys in a couple of weeks.